Breaking news coming out today that Iran has threatened to attack the United States. Take a look at this article coming out in just the past hour. Iran warns that it will retaliate if the U.S. attacks as protesters defy the crackdown. Here's another article coming out. Iran warns U.S. troops and Israel will be targets if America strikes over the protests as the death toll rises. You can see these coming out today, January the 11th. Confronting protests, Iran vows to strike back if the U.S. attacks. And you can see live updates pouring in. Iran protests live. Tehran says that it will hit back at the United States and Israel if they are attacked. We are hearing that Iran is directly threatening the United States. Iran warns the U.S. against intervention. Civil unrest poses biggest threat to the Islamic Republic in years. Now, also, deaths from Iran's protests reach more than 500. We actually heard an Iranian news source last night say that these are underreported. They literally believe it's in the thousands, that the hospitals are unable to accommodate all of the wounded. This is what the rights groups are saying. Trump weighs the options on Iran as protest crackdown reportedly ends the lives of more than 500 people. Trump is saying that he is planning intervention, and Iran is saying, if you do so, we will strike you back. And take a look. Netanyahu and Rubio are discussing U.S. military intervention in Iran amid ongoing nationwide protests. According to reports, Israel is on high alert as anti-regime demonstrations across Iran hit the 2-week mark. All of these coming out in the last 24 hours, as we're hearing that just this morning, Iran has now directly threatened the United States and Israel, saying if the United States intervenes and tries to help protesters, that Iran will directly attack U.S. and Israeli troops, military assets in the region. So we're receiving more direct threats coming out from Iran this morning. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you glad to see Donald Trump becoming very aggressive with these foreign nations? If so, drop a 47 in the comments. And also, please say a prayer for our troops, for our world, for our nation at this time. The last thing we want to see is more attacks on our troops that are defending our nation around the world. Now, I'm going to dive right in. I've got a ton of video footage and articles that have been coming out today, January the 11th, 2026. If you appreciate the live stream feed, take a second, hit that thumbs up like button. Really helps the channel while we're live spread out across the YouTube platform. Also subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. Why not? And also, as you guys know, the new channel, the Bible channel, I'm going to be reading for you the Holy Bible. You're going to be able to get the King James Version of the Bible in my voice, same voice that brings you the news. If you're interested, more videos dropping every Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So check that out if you're interested as well. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get right to the breaking news so that way you can see it for yourself. We actually got clips of Iranian leaders saying that there will be attacks on the U.S. as they chant death to America. Let's go ahead and take a look coming out today.
Fox News alert now on new U.S. airstrikes against ISIS targets in Syria this weekend. Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yanks joining us from neighboring Israel. Trey, what's the latest?
Jackie, good morning. Overnight, the United States launched a series of strikes against ISIS targets in Syria. U.S. Central Command said these strikes were in response to the killing of 2 National Guardsmen last month. According to reports, the U.S. used more than 90 precision-guided munitions, hitting over 35 locations. These were the second round of strikes against the Islamic State since that attack on U.S. forces. CENTCOM continues to monitor ISIS activity, but officials tell Fox News they're also closely watching the ongoing protests in Iran. Over the weekend, massive demonstrations swelled across Iran with fires set in major cities, government buildings torched, and mosques burned down. For the third day, Iranian officials have shut down the internet access there, but with Starlink satellite uplinks, some images and information are trickling out, including reports that security forces have opened fire on protesters in multiple cities. Crowds in northern Tehran chanted, "Down with the dictator, long live the Shah, Pahlavi will return." With widespread domestic unrest and a Truth Social post from President Trump overnight saying that the USA is ready to help, the Speaker of the Iranian parliament is warning the United States against striking Iran.
American military centers and bases and ships in the region will be our legitimate targets.
This week, the Israeli Security Cabinet is holding consultations about the situation in Iran. Jackie?
Trey Yingst, thank you so much. Well, joining me now is Senate Intelligence Committee Vice Chair Senator Mark Warner. Senator, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Just to start off.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. Your reaction to these strikes in Syria, anything you can say about the degree to which the U.S. has degraded ISIS with this attack?
Well, we continue to hit ISIS targets in Syria, and they are bad folks. Let's acknowledge that, and let's also acknowledge the fact that the Iranian people are very brave to stand up against their repressive regime. But if we step back for a moment, Jackie, in less than a year, President Trump has used American military to attack Syria, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Nigeria, Venezuela. We've got 20% of our fleet off the coast of Venezuela maintaining a blockade. And our military did remarkable in Venezuela. He's now threatening Colombia, Greenland, and other nations. I'm against the bad guys around the world, but I'm not sure that America trying to be the policeman for the whole world is why Americans hired Donald Trump to be president.
There have been no shortage of Republicans saying that there's a lot of precedent, presidential authority for those kinds of strikes that date back to Democratic administrations too. But on Iran specifically, the Times of Israel is reporting that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, that President Trump is, quote, seriously considering authorizing a strike on Iran amid this crackdown and the internet blackout there. In your opinion, is the regime at a breaking point? And at what point should the U.S. get involved?
Well, the Iranian regime is awful, and I stand with the Iranian people. But what I'm worried about is if we take a kinetic strike, does that actually unite the Iranian people in a way that the regime has not been able to? I know this is history, but the last time we intervened in Iran in a major way was 1953 when the CIA overthrew the Iranian regime to protect Iranian oil for the West. Many historians would argue that led to the Ayatollah. I think we can put outside pressure, I think rallying the rest of the world, but taking a kinetic strike unless there is a plan on what next. And I'll remind your viewers, we've got 20% of our fleet right now off the coast of Venezuela, blockading that country. The USS Ford, which is one of our lead carriers, is supposed to be deployed to the Middle East. It's now deployed off the coast of Venezuela. And the president has said, we're going to take Venezuelan oil. It will take 2 years to rebuild the Venezuelan oil infrastructure. Is our fleet going to stay there for 2 years? Even as good as our military is, it's going to get stretched. And the president has said his only constraint in terms of how he uses American power is his own morality. And I'm just not sure that's what the American people or the world signed up for. There is a reason why the Constitution says that no single individual can put our troops in harm's way by themselves without consultation with Congress and making a case to the American people.
Speaking of additional action on U.S. troops, I want to get your reaction to this. The president said that cartels are running Mexico. He suggested that land strikes on cartels in Mexico could be coming soon. The Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has called for increased communication between the U.S. and Mexico. Is there any justification for land strikes on cartels in Mexico?
The drug cartels are awful. We need to use lots of tools. But the idea that we are going to take a military strike against Mexico, remember, we may not like the president may not like President Sheinbaum, although he said nice things about her, but she was elected by the Mexican people. Do we really, are we going to continue to strike out against any leader around the world that Donald Trump doesn't like? I mean, if Donald Trump wants to make a case about striking Mexico, he should take it to the American people and to the Congress and ask for some kind of declaration. But to arbitrarily, again, I point out the fact that he's used American military to strike 6 countries in less than a year. I think the people hired Donald Trump because he said he wanted to end these countless foreign wars. It seems like he's potentially starting more, and even some of the countries you talk about, Greenland now, which is part of Denmark, is a NATO ally. Is he going to literally blow up our NATO alliance to go after Greenland, where we already have a treaty that allows us to do virtually anything we want? I just don't understand what his policy is. And if the only check on the president, and this is what he said to the New York Times, his only check on his international power is his own morality, that's not the way our system is supposed to work, Jackie.
Well, I want to ask you about Greenland because you are the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, and there's a lot of reason to be strategically interested in Greenland. The Hill writes this: melting ice has turned what was once a frozen buffer into a contested corridor. Shipping lanes are emerging, subsea cables snake across the ocean floor, missile paths shorten, surveillance gaps narrow. Russia knows this, China knows this. Both are investing heavily in Arctic presence, infrastructure, and influence. Either the U.S. can treat Greenland as a distant curiosity or what it actually is, a forward position in a region that will define future power balances. Is the president at all justified in pursuing Greenland?
No. Well, Jackie, Greenland is extraordinarily strategic. And we have a treaty with Denmark that gives us right to virtually do anything we want in Greenland. But the idea that he's now threatening Denmark, which Greenland is part of, which is a NATO ally, if he were to take an action against Greenland, that would completely destroy NATO. And it's a little ironic the president is citing Russia, since the president has basically been cutting back on our assistance to Ukraine, which is fighting Russia tooth and nail to try to push back Putin's aggressive war. How does he, on one hand, say he's concerned about Russia in Greenland, but not concerned about Russia in Ukraine, where the Ukrainians are fighting in many ways the NATO's fight?
We're out of time, Senator. We'll have to leave it there. We've got to point out there's plenty of reporting to suggest he's pursuing a sale, a purchase of Greenland over any sort of an invasion. But this is obviously an evolving issue.
Let's see if we can get a settlement. But breaking against the NATO ally, I don't think the American public will stand for that.
Senator.
There you have it. Man, let me know your thoughts, you guys. Now, they kind of went off the topic a little bit into various different ones, and I just kind of let it run because there is a lot going on, and I wanted to hear what the senator had to say. That was Senator Warner, Democratic senator, on Fox News Sunday this morning. All this coming out today, and you heard them mention there's talks about putting troops on the ground in Mexico. We've also heard that there's conflict going on with Venezuela, Colombia, Cuba. You heard them talking about Trump is planning to also purchase or acquire Greenland, saying we need it. It is a strategic location that must be acquired. And Trump is saying that if we don't do it, Russia or China is going to do it. And if they do it, it is going to be bad. The United States needs to acquire that. Now, in addition to that, we have the conflict going on in the Middle East, which I'm covering for you this morning, as Iran has said that they will attack U.S. and Israeli troops and assets if the United States intervenes in the conflict, the protests, the revolution that is happening in Iran right now. And right now we're hearing at this moment, the United States is saying they are planning and preparing for intervention. So Iran is saying we will hit the United States. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Should Donald Trump intervene in Iran? If you think so, put yes. If you think no, put no. Let me know your thoughts. Now, this could be an opportunity to go in to take out the regime. We've heard that the exiled crown prince of Iran, he is saying that they should do so, and he is ready to rule if the people, the democracy, decides that they wanted them to do that. We're hearing that the leadership right now is threatening the United States, is saying that they will attack U.S. troops, is shouting death to America. But the people of Iran are in the streets protesting and causing a revolution, saying they no longer want this regime. And they are actually requesting that Donald Trump come in and help. They're asking for assistance to overthrow the Iranian regime. Should the United States get involved? Yes or no? That is the question. Drop it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. I know there's a lot of split opinions on this. As you heard that Democratic senator say, he said, I believe that the people of America did not vote for Donald Trump to be the police of the world and to get in the middle of various different conflicts. Yet there are those that are saying this is an opportunity to throw out an evil regime that shouts death to America, death to Israel, calls us the big Satan, and is saying that at any moment when they're able to get their hands on nuclear warheads, that they are threatening to use them against us. Should we go after the Iranian regime? Yes or no? Let me know. I'm seeing yeses and nos pouring into the comments, varying opinions on this, but we're hearing that this morning, Iran has threatened the United States, saying, we will strike you if you get involved, and that might be because they know that if the United States gets involved, it could be the end of that reign, of that regime. But let's take a look at some of the articles that have been coming out. You can see this one just in the past hour. Today, January 11th, 2026, with the breaking news as Iran warns it will retaliate if the United States attacks as the protesters defy the crackdowns in Iran. Now, the article says that Iran has warned that it will retaliate if attacked by the United States as protesters defy a deadly government crackdown on Saturday night. Videos verified by the BBC and eyewitnesses accounts appeared to show the government ramping up its response to the protests, which have spread to more than 100 cities and towns across every province in Iran. Medics at 2 hospitals have told the BBC that more than 100 bodies had been brought in over a 2-day period. The nationwide death toll is feared to be far higher, and I shared with you Iranian news sources saying it's in the thousands. The U.S. has threatened to strike Iran over killing the protesters. Iran's parliament's speaker warned that if the United States attacked, Israel and U.S. military and shipping centers in the region would become legitimate targets. Carrie Morash, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that a ton. She says, scary times. We need Greenland. Trump will pay the residents of Greenland. Residents will get far more from the United States than Denmark. Thank you for that. And we will see where he's saying that is coming in the near future. He said, you will hear more about Greenland here very soon. He is going to try to acquire it. Reading on, the article says, the protests were sparked in the capital, Tehran, by soaring inflation and are now calling for an end to the clerical rule of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran's attorney general said anyone protesting would be considered an enemy of God, an offense that carries the death penalty. While Khamenei has dismissed demonstrators as a bunch of vandals seeking to please Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump said on yesterday, that the U.S. stands ready to help as Iran is looking at freedom. Iran's president, Mossad Pezeshkian, has blamed the United States and Israel for the unrest. They have trained certain individuals inside the country and abroad, brought terrorists into the country from outside, set mosques on fire, and attacked markets and guilds in Rasht, setting the bazaar ablaze, he said, without providing evidence. As protests intensify, the numbers of deaths and injuries recorded by human rights monitors continues to rise. Footage authenticated by BBC Persian and BBC Verify shows security officers shooting at gatherings of protesters in Tehran, in the western Kermanshah province and the southern Bushehr region. Multiple verified videos filmed in the center of the western city of Ilam last weekend show security forces firing shots towards Imam Khamenei's hospital, where a group of protesters had been holding a rally. Staff at several hospitals have since told BBC that they have been overwhelmed with the injured and the dead. BBC Persian has verified that 70 bodies were brought to one hospital in the city of Rasht on Friday night, while a health worker reported around 38 people dying at Tehran's hospital. Sources inside Iran told BBC Persian that plainclothes officers have been targeting people filming and on their own at the protests. Iran's police chief said on state TV that the level of confrontations with the protests had been stepped up, with arrests on Saturday night of what he called key figures. He blamed a significant proportion of fatalities on trained and directed individuals, not security forces, but did not give specific details. More than 2,500 people have been arrested since the protests began on December 28th, according to the Human Rights. So there you have it, and we're hearing that the BBC and most other international news organizations are unable to report from inside Iran. The Iranian government has imposed an internet shutdown since Thursday, making obtaining and verifying information difficult. So we're hearing that it is extremely difficult to verify these numbers, to know how many have lost their lives, and to know exactly what is going on, because Iran has shut down the internet, but specific internet. There is very few that are still open. They've left open. They're saying the supreme leader has still been able to use X to still give updates and information. So they shut it off for everybody except for their regime. Now take a look here. Iran warns U.S. troops and Israel will be targeted if America strikes over the protests as the death toll rises. Coming out today, you can see here, United Arab Emirates nationwide protests challenging Iran's theocracy saw protesters flood the streets in the country's capital and its second largest city into Sunday, crossing the 2-week mark as violence surrounding the demonstrations has ended the lives of at least 116 people, activists said. But we're hearing that that is probably a very low number compared to the reality that we cannot confirm. With the internet down in Iran and phone lines cut off, gauging the demonstrations from abroad has grown more difficult, but the death toll in the protests has grown, while 2,600 others have been detained, according to the U.S.-based human rights activist news agency. Meanwhile, Iran's parliament speaker warned the United States military and Israel would be legitimate targets if America strikes the Islamic Republic, as threatened by President Donald Trump. Now, Qualbaf made the threats as lawmakers rushed the dais in the Iranian parliament, shouting, "Death to America." So you can see here, this coming out today, they have threatened to attack the U.S. and Israel while they are shouting death to America. And again, this is the Iranian leadership. Meanwhile, the Iranian people are actually asking for Trump to intervene. Trump is saying that he is considering it right now because the people of Iran are on the verge of freedom from this regime. And we have just heard today that they are saying if Donald Trump and the United States intervenes, they will attack U.S. troops and assets. Those abroad fear the information blackout will embolden hardliners within Iran's security services to launch a bloody crackdown, despite warnings from Trump that he's willing to strike the Islamic Republic to protect the peaceful demonstrators. Trump offered support to the protesters, saying on social media that Iran is looking at freedom, perhaps like never before. The USA stands ready to help. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, citing anonymous U.S. officials, said on Saturday night, yesterday, that Trump had been given military options for a strike on Iran, but hadn't made a final decision. The State Department separately warned, do not play games with President Trump. When he says he'll do something, he means it. Parliament rallies. Iranian state television broadcasts the parliament session live. Now, Qualbaf, a hardliner who has run for the presidency in the past, gave a speech applauding police and Iranian Parliament Revolutionary Guard, particularly its all-volunteer Basij, for having stood firm during the protests. The people of Iran should know that we will deal with them in the most severe way and punish those who are arrested, he said. He went on to directly threaten Israel, the occupied territory, as he referred to it, and the U.S. military, possibly with preemptive strikes. Now, in the event of an attack on Iran, both the occupied territory and all American military centers, bases, and ships in the region will be our legitimate targets, Qualbaf said. We do not consider ourselves limited to reacting after the action and will act based on any objective signs of a threat. So they're saying they could do a preliminary attack. If they feel like there is a potential attack coming, they will strike first. It remains unclear just how serious Iran is about launching a strike, particularly after seeing its air defenses destroyed during the 12-day war in June with Israel. Any decision to go to war would rest with Iran's 86-year-old supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The U.S. military has said in the Middle East it is postured with forces that span the full range of combat capability to defend our forces, our partners and allies, and U.S. interests. Protests in Tehran and Mashhad. Online videos sent out of Iran, likely using Starlink satellite transmitters, purportedly showed demonstrators gathering in northern Tehran's Ponak neighborhood. There, it appeared authorities shut off streets, with protesters waving their lit mobile phones. Others banged metal while fireworks went off. Other footage purportedly showed demonstrators peacefully marching down a street and others honking their car horns on the streets. Now, in Mashhad, Iran's second largest city, some 725 kilometers or 450 miles northeast of Tehran, footage purported to show protesters confronting security forces. Flaming debris and dumpsters could be seen in the streets, blocking roads. Mashhad is home of the Imam Reza Shrine, the holiest in the Shiite Islam, making the protests there carry heavy significance for the country's theocracy. Protests also appeared to happen in Kerman, 800 kilometers or 500 miles southeast of Tehran. Iranian state television on Sunday morning took a page from demonstrators, having their correspondents appear on streets in several cities to show calm areas with the date stamp shown on the screen. Tehran and Mashhad were not included. They also showed pro-government demonstrations in Qom and Kazim. So, man, there you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Iran directly threatening the United States, but man, does Iran really want to go to war with the United States? Do they really want to threaten attacks and the tit for tat with Donald Trump? Let me know your thoughts. If you appreciate the way Donald Trump is handling things, drop a 47 in the comments. Now, if you don't, drop a 46 for the previous administration, which handled things very differently. But you'll recall that just a little while ago, we saw the United States intervene into Venezuela and go and capture the President Maduro. It is now being reported that the technology that was used to take out Maduro is something that has never been used or seen before. Let me know in the comments. Did you hear about this? It was initially reported that possibly an EMP had been used to take out the power grids, or maybe there was something that was shut off. They said something unusual happened and that several of the guards lost their lives. But now it's being reported that some of the guards that survived said that the United States hit them with some sort of technology that they had never seen before. Guards began to have their noses bleed. They began to collapse. They said they could hear a sound that felt like a vibration that overtook their bodies and crippled them and paralyzed them. While the U.S. military came in, the guards were crippled, paralyzed, unable to do anything except sit in pain with the vibrations. They said that felt like a tremor in their brain. Many of them began vomiting, nosebleeds, and they said it was a technology that has not been used before. So the United States, they're saying, has technologies that they have not unleashed, that they're not afraid to use, that will just totally cripple nations. After seeing this, and they were able to go in and capture Maduro, the Venezuelan president, and take him within less than an hour, does Iran really want to mess with the United States? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And like I said, if you appreciate the Trump administration, drop a 47 in the comments. But let's go ahead and take a look at some more video footage so you can see exactly what's happening right now in Iran as the people are protesting. They're trying to do a revolution, but the Iranian regime is trying to suppress them and telling the United States not to get involved. And if they do, they're threatening to attack the U.S. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more footage.
Overnight, protesters flooding the streets across Iran for the 14th night in a row. Masses gathering in Tehran, inundating the nation's capital as far as the eye can see. Crowds cheering around this bonfire, dancing around the flames. Chanting "Down with the dictator," blasting the regime over Iran's failing economy and soaring inflation. In this dramatic footage posted on social media, a man with what appears to be a homemade flamethrower sets a motorcyclist on fire. These protesters risking arrest and even death. The government trying to shut them down with a nationwide communications blackout, cutting off the internet, cell service, and phone lines. As the crackdown intensifies, President Trump escalating his warning to the Iranian regime.
Again, I tell the Iranian leaders, you better not start shooting because we'll start shooting too.
Human rights groups say dozens of protesters have been killed and thousands more arrested. Trump clarifying his threat does not mean U.S. boots on the ground.
We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts.
This morning, Iran responding to those threats, warning that if the U.S. were to strike, the U.S. and Israel would be legitimate targets of the Islamic Republic. This comes just 1 week after the U.S. captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and Trump declared the U.S. is running the country. In a New York courtroom on Monday, the ousted leader and his wife pleading not guilty to drug and weapons charges. Maduro telling the judge he was kidnapped in Caracas. Now Trump is warning the U.S. could take similar action against Colombia and is threatening land strikes on drug cartels that he claims are running Mexico. In response, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum tasking her foreign minister with strengthening coordination with the United States. Trump pressed this week on whether there's any limits to his global powers.
Yeah, there's one thing, my own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop. I don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt people.
And we're learning from an Israeli official that Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke with Secretary of State Marco Rubio this weekend about what's happening in Iran. And remember, Gio, it was just a couple of weeks ago when Trump met with Netanyahu at Mar-a-Lago, where Trump promised that the U.S. would back Israeli strikes on Iran if Iran continues with its nuclear program.
Wow, so many things going on. You heard them again talking about Mexico. We're hearing about boots on the ground in Mexico, potentially threats to Cuba, Colombia, the new leader of Venezuela. We're hearing that there is potential purchase of Greenland. And you heard Donald Trump saying that the only thing that's limiting him is, what his morals, what he feels like he should do at this time. Let me know. And do you appreciate the direction that Donald Trump is going right now? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But we're hearing that he is saying he is planning to intervene. He's saying that they're thinking that they should go ahead and attack the Iranian regime, which is at this time shouting death to America this morning, January the 11th, 2026. And they are saying that if the United States gets involved, that they are going to hit back. But the Iranian people right now are asking Trump and the United States and the world to intervene, saying we don't want to be under this regime any longer. Let's go ahead and take a look at more video footage coming out on this.
Fox News alert, the U.S. military launching airstrikes against ISIS in Syria, the second time the U.S. has attacked the Islamic State as part of retaliation for the killings of 2 Iowa National Guardsmen and an American interpreter last month. Our next guest knows all about fighting in the war on terror. Retired Vice Admiral and Navy SEAL Robert Harward led invasions in Afghanistan and Iraq and is a member of JINSA's Iran Policy Project. Joining us now, Vice Admiral, thank you for taking time. I want to get your reaction to these strikes in Syria.
Well, Griff, it's just a continuation of the global war on terrorism. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or these organizations that have American blood on their hands, we're going to hold them accountable and get them. So this is exactly that again. We knew these guys had killed our people. We got them. And that's going to go on. That's going to be a persistent, consistent policy. I think more importantly, though, is the timing and where this happened. This is a clear signal to the government of Syria and others who are interested that we're going to be involved. We support and we're going to take action to ensure a stable, secure government in Syria. And then I think most importantly that I'm sure is being seen by the people of Iran, this is a signal to the regime in Iran. And as the president has made clear, we are going to hold them accountable. If they're going to continue to oppress, kill, murder their people to maintain power, we stand in support of the Iranian people for regime change. And we're going to hold them accountable for the actions they take. So I think this is a clear signal across all 3 of those spectrums, and a real indicator of where this administration is going.
That's exactly right, Admiral. In fact, the Wall Street Journal reporting on possible military options that the Trump administration is looking at. Inside the article, they say this: administration officials have had preliminary discussions about how to carry out an attack on Iran if needed to follow through on the threats, U.S. officials said. The discussions include what sites might be targeted. One option being discussed is a large-scale aerial strike on multiple Iranian military targets. This comes, Admiral, after President Trump took to his Truth Social yesterday saying this: Iran is looking at freedom. Perhaps like never before, the USA stands ready to help. What do you foresee possibly developing here?
Oh, it's inevitable. It will happen. There's regime change going to happen in Iran. This president does what he says. He's made that very clear in Venezuela and other places. So it's going to happen. We stand behind the people of Iran. And don't forget, this is what Iran was in the 70s, a prosperous nation that enjoyed all the values and support of the West. So I believe this is, 4 or 5 decades in the coming. It will happen. And what's different here, you have the Bazaris, the business folks. They can't live This government in Iran has just squandered the opportunity, and this president is stepping up to the plate to ensure it returns to that same place it was decades ago.
And that sure is what precipitated this, the 42% inflation in Iran with the currency that is devaluing by the day. Last 20 seconds I've got. Do you think that the U.S. should maybe let Israel take any lead on strikes before we directly do it, or will it be a U.S.-led operation in your estimation?
I think we should all be synchronized and leveraging the capacity of not only our intelligence, but also our strike capabilities of all our allies in the region, being Israel and others. So I think it's inevitable. We're giving them an opportunity to do this transition peacefully and not with a lot of blood on the ground.
It is a big story. We shall be covering it. Vice Admiral Robert Harward, thank you for your service and thank you for being here today.
There you have it. You heard the Admiral saying that he believes the regime change is coming. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think it is? Donald Trump is saying that he supports it and he's willing to support the protesters as they are saying they are done with the Iranian regime, with the leaders that shout death to America, that suppress them. They're saying the inflation is out of control. I think it was like 40, 50 something %. They're saying they can't live like this. They don't want to be under the regime any longer. And there you heard him say it is time, that this has been a long time coming, and that now we're finally going to be seeing the transition of power in Iran. And the United States is saying, we're going to be right there. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more footage coming out today as we're hearing that the chaos is erupting in Iran.
The Trump administration is reportedly planning on stepping in as the uprising in Iran intensifies. Activists now say at least 116 people have died during protests challenging Iran's theocratic regime.
Madeline Rivera joins us live from Washington with the details. Hey, Maddie.
Hi, good morning. So it has been a bit difficult to identify casualties after the government cut off internet access. The death toll is climbing, though, yet the protests continue. More than 2,000 people have also been arrested. That's per the human rights activist news agency. President Trump has promised to intervene if the regime resorts to mass violence. Now, the Wall Street Journal reports administration officials have had preliminary conversations about how to carry out an attack if the U.S. does need to follow through. The outlet reporting per U.S. officials, the discussions include what sites might be targeted. One option being discussed is a large-scale aerial strike on multiple Iranian military targets, one of the officials said. Another official said there was no consensus on the course of action and no military equipment or personnel has been moved in preparation for a strike. Senator Lindsey Graham posting a message on X saying, in part, to the Iranian people, when President Trump says make Iran great again, it means the protesters in Iran must prevail over the Ayatollah. That is the clearest signal yet that he, President Trump, understands Iran will never be great with the Ayatollah and his henchmen in charge. There are demonstrations in other parts of the world to show solidarity with the protesters in Iran. One man scaled a balcony of Iran's embassy in London, you see it there, and tore down the Islamic Republic flag, replacing it with one from the Shah era. Iran, meantime, says they'll retaliate if the U.S. attacks, saying U.S. military bases, ships, and other assets in the region will be considered potential targets. Charlie, Rachel, and Griff.
All right, Maddie.
Thank you, Maddie.
Much. What an incredible thing we were watching unfolding. And you know what's so unique about these protests is these are youngsters.
Yeah.
These are teenagers and 20-year-olds who have never known anything other than oppression in an Islamic state. And they are willing to fight for something that only their grandparents were able to tell them about, the freedom that once existed in the country. And that is a remarkable thing.
You know, I've been trying to think what's different in this protest than other protests we've seen before in Iran that have been squelched. And I want to ask you, because I know you've been following this really closely, is it the internet and is it access and the ability to share images even to the world right now? I mean, this is incredible.
Yeah, what's different, Rachel, it's such an important question. We saw something like this in 2009 when they stood up. And guess what? The guy behind the Resolute desk was named Barack Obama. And he did not stand with those protesters. And his administration did nothing to help them. And you know what's different? Is the current occupant of the White House, Donald Trump, says, this is the cover of the New York Post. It's so powerful. Got your back. And President Trump yesterday tweeting out this, or putting on Truth Social rather, Iran is looking at freedom, perhaps like never before. The USA stands ready to help. And the fact that we don't know exactly what may come, as Maddie was reporting, the Wall Street Journal saying that the administration is looking at possible large-scale strike options. But one thing is, those protesters now are feeling support from this administration, and I think it's feeling it, and it's getting even bigger. One other technological difference is, of course, Starlink and Elon Musk.
That's right. That's what I was getting at. That's made a difference in other protests, even in Cuba, when you saw the uprising a few summers ago. They were begging Joe Biden to give them access to the internet. Fast forward to Venezuela, Elon Musk gave them Starlink, and they were able at least to be able to broadcast the oppression and not just the riots, but then the oppression that came after the protests.
And to give you an idea about how desperate the government in Iran is right now, they have not only killed the internet, but they've also killed actually landline telephone lines. So in an effort to squelch this, and in some places they've actually cut electricity to parts of Iran, to parts of cities, to silence these people. And of course, it's obviously not working. And Griff, your point about the difference between Barack Obama and Donald Trump is so important, because most of our global politics and all of our Middle East politics have been defined by the bad actors in Iran since 1979. And what is interesting about it is that Barack Obama, his whole new worldview was to hand control of the Middle East over to the mullahs of Iran, and it has emboldened them. And you probably added another 15 years to their reign because of that. And now we're seeing this, and it looks like it really did. There's something really does feel very different. And obviously, as we reported yesterday, much of it is based on economics and the collapse of the Iranian economy, which is driving so much of it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the...
Wow, there you have it, you guys. Absolutely incredible what we're seeing unfold right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Man, let's go ahead and take a look at some more video footage, though, as we're hearing that the White House is discussing a large-scale strike on Iran. Now, given all the information that you have now heard, should the United States go forward with a strike on Iran to help the protesters, to help overthrow the Iranian regime? If you think so, put yes in the comments. If not, put no. But let me know your thoughts, and let's take a look at some more footage.
Yeah, so we're now learning that the death toll has risen to 203 in Iran. And one of the most remarkable things about this is watching these images that we're seeing out of Iran. The government, of course, has cut off the internet to the entire country. They've even cut off landlines, like old-timey phone lines, because they're trying to keep these images from getting out. They've been cutting electricity to cities. And in stepped Elon Musk with Starlink. The reason that we're seeing these images right now is because Starlink, using satellites over Iran, is able to, and it's not a perfect system. It's not everybody has the access that they want or that they need, but enough of these images and video is getting out, which is the only reason we're seeing this. And one of the things I think is so interesting about this is that, and a real question is the number of outlets, mainstream media outlets, who are ignoring this story for some reason. For some reason, they don't realize that this is the biggest story probably in the Middle East in nearly 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, these images make a difference because public opinion globally makes a difference. I still remember, I don't know, it was 4 years ago when the Cubans had an uprising, and it was quite significant. And what they wanted was video images to go out to the world, not just of the protests, but also of the repression when the government finally got control and started to arrest and beat down many of the protesters. And they were begging Joe Biden for the ability, to send some help for satellites so they could get those images out. And Joe Biden said no. But then when the same things happened 2 years ago in Venezuela, Elon Musk. They didn't have to beg Joe Biden for anything. They were able to get it from Elon Musk, just as the Iranians are doing. So Elon Musk, just as he freed Twitter, really playing a giant role in allowing people to speak freely, and also for all of us to see what's going on.
And to that point, Rachel, you got me thinking, he's also, like, we saw President Trump saying, we've got your back to Iran. Elon Musk is also standing with them. Just 2 days ago, Elon Musk responded to Ayatollah Khamenei, has been saber rattling and saying we won't be defeated. And Musk tweeted a very famous Persian saying, which is essentially say the Ayatollah had said, we won't be defeated. And he tweeted out in Farsi, he tweeted out that, the phrase that means wishful thinking or a vain fantasy that you won't be defeated. And these protesters have been chanting that phrase in these protests. Last point, it is so amazing because Lucas talked about pre-1979 Iran. Anyone under 40 years old is fighting for freedom that they've never known in their life.
Yeah.
That's such a great point. Well, you saw that tweet out from Lindsey Graham. A lot of people get nervous when they see Lindsey Graham promoting something, some kind of military foreign action. But it's going to be interesting because we're going to have Patrick Bet-David. He is a refugee from Iran. He's a very famous, as you guys know, podcaster and businessman in America here. And we're going to have him come on to explain what's going on, what he thinks will happen, and what the implications for the Middle East will be, and whether he thinks President Trump should assist these protesters. So this is a very interesting story and segment. Stay with us for that.
So, man, huge news coming out of Iran. The Iranian regime looks like it could be tumbling at this time. And take a look for the headlines for those of you who missed it. Confronting protests coming out today, all this morning. Iran vows to strike back if the U.S. attacks. We are hearing that Iran protests live. Tehran says that it will hit back at the United States and Israel if the Iranian regime is attacked. Iran warns the United States against intervention. Civil unrest poses the biggest threat to the Islamic Republic in years. Deaths from Iran protests reach more than 500, but we're hearing Iranian sources saying that they believe that this is underreported due to the internet being cut. They can't confirm the numbers, but they believe it's actually in the thousands. Trump weighs the option of Iran as protest crackdown reportedly kills more than 500. We're hearing that Trump is leaning towards attacks. Netanyahu and Rubio discuss U.S. military intervention in Iran amid the ongoing nationwide protests, according to reports, and Israel is on high alert as the anti-regime demonstrations across Iran hit a 2-week mark. We are hearing things are getting pretty intense in the Middle East, and we're going to be seeing where we go from here. Now, we shall see, but it looks like there could be a regime change, that the controlling power, the leadership of Iran, could be overthrown, and they're threatening the United States. They could be getting desperate here, but we'll be seeing what's going to unfold, and I'll keep you up to date every step of the way as there is new information coming out just today, January the 11th, 2026. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you haven't done so yet, please take a second, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. And as I mentioned to you, if you're a praying individual, hope that you had a great Sunday today. Maybe you went to church with the family. And if you want to hear the King James Version of the Holy Bible, check out the new channel. It's pinned in the comments, the Holy Bible KJV, every Thursday, dropping new chapters of the Bible. The same voice that brings you the news, bringing you the Bible. I'm going to be reading the Bible for you on that channel if you're interested. So check it out, and hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much, though, for joining me. I'll keep you up to speed as more comes out. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.